What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. It is your boy Lee Largo with another sports update. I'm still trying to figure out what kind of intro I want to do for these off gaming subjects, aka off Magic the Gathering subjects. But for right now, I'm just going to roll with it. So I've got a massive update here on the NFL, which is a trade between the New York Jets and the Carolina Panthers. Now, this happened yesterday while I was at work, and I'm just now getting around to giving my 2 cents about it, whatever that's worth. So, a trade here, I consider this a pretty significant trade. So the Jets traded Sam Darnold to the Carolina Panthers yesterday, and in return for that, they are getting they received 3 picks, a 6th round pick in this year's draft, and then a 2nd rounder and a 4th rounder in 2022. Now, I don't think there's any kind of incentives to that trade, like AKA if Darnold plays very well, that second turns into like a first or anything like that. I think it's just literally a 2nd rounder and a 2nd rounder and a 4th rounder next year, which I think is fair because Sam Darnold's production has just been really inconsistent to say the least, and I think them getting a 2nd rounder in next year's draft and a 4th rounder next year is really solid. Even a 3rd rounder, or not 3rd rounder, 6th rounder this year is okay. I mean, in the NFL, I'm like, all draft picks are coveted because you never know when you might stumble upon a gem in the later rounds. So, but this obviously throws a little bit of a wrench into the quarterback room in Carolina with Teddy Bridgewater still being there. But so basically, the Jets here, they're hitting the reset button. They're obviously going to be taking a quarterback in this year's draft. It's either going to be Zach Wilson, it could be Justin Fields, it could be Trey Lance, it could be any of these cats, because everybody's expecting Trevor Lawrence to go #1 overall to the Jaguars, which I wholeheartedly hope that happens because I think that is going to be a great option for the Jaguars based off of the offseason they had. So for the Jets, though, I mean, I don't really have too much faith in whoever they end up picking because Adam Gase has proved to not be a very effective coach over the last couple of years. There have been a lot of people who have been hating on him for a while. I gave him too much. I gave him too much time before I started really criticizing him on my own. I honestly thought he was going to help Darnold excel his playing level. Now, of course, Darnold, I mean, he had mono at one point. He was injured. He was in and out of the game. And honestly, he hasn't had the best supporting cast around him. I mean, you can argue Le'Veon Bell, but I mean, that offensive line is terrible. So there really wasn't much of a run game anyway. So, the Jets, in my opinion, are in full rebuild mode. Obviously. So I don't know. We'll have to take unless the quarterback play and for the Jets next year like completely like rises significantly, then we'll know that maybe it wasn't just the coaching staff for Darnold. But I don't have high hopes for whoever goes there, and I feel bad saying this because I really hate criticizing players and coaches and stuff like that. But this is more of a criticism of a coach and scheme. Whoever they end up drafting, I just feel like it's going to be, I hate saying wasted year, but it won't be an effective year for whoever ends up playing quarterback for the Jets. I think it's going to be just because inevitable, I mean, it's just far-fetched that the Jets are actually going to hit like a above 500 season. So with that being said, I think it's fair to say that Adam Gase is on the chopping block for next year, but we'll see. And you know, especially if the offense still struggles the way that it did last year, I think obviously he'll be on the chopping block, and rightfully so. they're saying here on ESPN, you can take this for what it's worth. They're thinking Zach Wilson is the leading candidate here, which makes sense. But honestly, you could go either way. I'm not completely sold on Trey Lance. This is kind of like a side thing. This could have been a topic on a video on its own. I'm not completely sold on Trey Lance. I mean, you take a look at quarterbacks. Now, again, Trey Lance is a unique prospect, but you take a look at quarterbacks that have had the same amount of experience in college, coming from a smaller school, and compare that to other first-round picks that have been taken fairly high or in the first round at all, and that have had similar, maybe not similar stats. Trey Lance has had incredible stats, but you look at the playing time, and as I said, I'm not comparing Trey Lance to these two quarterbacks. I'm just talking about the experience, the playing time, and the small school aspect. You're looking at Mitchell Trubisky, you're looking at Brandon Weeden. I mean, and these two quarterbacks were supposed to, were highly regarded in the draft and in college. And especially Trubisky. I mean, you look at what the Bears gave up to get him. I mean, and now he's on like he's like on a pocket change deal in Buffalo now to be Josh Allen's backup. Brandon Weeden, I mean, it was amazing how long he lasted in the NFL just as a backup. So I'm not saying Trey Lance is going to end up like that. I hope he doesn't. But it doesn't concern me. It's just I'd be a little hesitant to take Trey Lance higher than like a mid first round pick, just because the body of work isn't all there. So you're getting a very, very, very raw quarterback with tremendous athletic ability. But again, we'll see what happens. Now, going back to what I was saying in Carolina, in my opinion, this gives Carolina a huge boost. They have the option of trading Teddy Bridgewater to any quarterback needy team, or any team that's vying for, like a backup, or, I mean, you look at Houston. Houston already has like 3 break the glass emergency plans for this whole Deshaun Watson thing, and again, that's a video all on its own. But I think I am a Sam Darnold believer. I don't care what anybody says. There are certain things. I mean, again, there are certain things you see from him that make you go, "Wow, that's really." He plays really well at certain points. Then a lot of boneheaded mistakes, and of course his viral moment about seeing ghosts against the Patriots. But I chalk that up again to system. You know what I mean? And he reminds me a lot of Alex Smith when Alex Smith first came into the NFL. Same type of athletic ability, same type of arm, same problems on the coaching staff. And Alex Smith really didn't turn it around until Harbaugh got there. And then he really started to take that extra step to becoming a much more efficient quarterback, and they built that team around him. I feel like Darnold going to a team like the Panthers, who have a running back like Christian McCaffrey, assuming he comes back 100%. He had that nagging ankle foot injury, which is horrible for running backs, especially a guy like him. But if he comes back strong, they have a pretty good wide receiver core with DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, who they have a lot of chemistry with from their time in New York. They have Ian Thomas, who's an athletic tight end. We'll see if he can take that next step. They also have, I don't know who else they have at wide receiver. They had Curtis Samuel, but they opted to let him go to free agency. The big thing here is going to be the offensive line. They made some moves, which I addressed in an earlier video, my free agency recap. I'm not 100% sold on those. I think they're huge question marks. But I believe, and I'm going to take a bold prediction here. I hate making bold predictions, but they're fun. They're fun to do, I mean, shoot, that's what half of us all do here. We overreact to all this stuff in the in the off season and preseason, and then when injuries and the season actually starts, then those things either, they fall apart most of the time or they take off. But I'm going to sit here, I'm going to go out on a limb and say I think Sam Darnold will not only be the starter for the Panthers, but I think he will play very, very well. And it'll be up to the defense to try and keep them in games. You know what I mean? I have a feeling Darnold is going to excel in this offense. I think he has the athletic ability. I mean, we've seen when he takes off and runs and when he scrambles, he can move. He's got the athleticism to move around in the pocket and all that stuff, similar to Teddy Bridgewater. So I feel like he's going to play well. I have that feel. I just have that gut feeling. So we'll see what happens. Regardless, both teams end up on the plus here. You know, they move a controversial quarterback, well, not controversial, but an underperforming in their eyes quarterback out of a system that failed him, in my opinion. And the Panthers, they do give up, they give up some draft capital, but it's not over the top. I mean, sure, a second rounder, but the Jets had to get something because he was a top 3 pick, right? He was 3rd overall, so Jets had to get some compensation out of that. So I think it benefits both teams. Jets hit the reset button, get some draft capital for the future. The Panthers may have just stumbled upon their quarterback for the next 4 or 5 years. Who knows? We'll see. I think it's great for the Panthers. I think it's going to work out. And yeah, we're going to go ahead and leave it there. I appreciate y'all for watching. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. If you think this move is going to be a bust for Carolina, if you think Carolina is the overall winners of this deal, if you think both are giving up too much, who knows? Either way, let me know in the comment section, and I'll see you on the next one.